A very warm welcome, everyone. Myself, Manish Prabhakar Singh, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Model College, Kharsawa, affiliated to Kolhan University, Chaibasa. Today's lecture is on the history of Anglo-Saxon literature. English literature is often described as beginning with Chaucer, but there were more than 6 centuries of literature before Chaucer. If we look at the earliest literature, it reads like a foreign language, and that becomes one of the primary reasons for the neglect of English literature. The period of Anglo Saxon literature starts from mid 5th century and lasts till the Norman conquest or the Battle of Hastings in 1066 AD. The Anglo Saxon invaders, that is, the Angles, the Saxon, and the Jutes, came to Britain in the latter part of the 5th century AD and eventually established their kingdoms there and were the founders of what we properly call English culture and English literature. They gave England its name and its language. If you look at the Anglo Saxon timeline, it started after 450 AD with the arrival of Jutes from Jutland, Angles from south of Denmark, and Saxons from Germany. The second important event at that time was the conversion of English to Christianity with the arrival of St. Augustine missionaries in 597 AD, who came from Rome and began to convert Jews in Kent. King Ethelbert of Kent was the first to convert into Christianity in 601 AD. If you look at the overall timeline, it seems like a disproportionate one, as there is very little written literature which survived in the first 800 years. Many historians are of the view that the Anglo Saxon period lost many literary works. It was the age of manuscript, and for today modern readers, the Old English was almost like a foreign language. Just look at the given example, and you will easily understand how foreign the given manuscript seems. The period of English literature ranges from 449 AD to 1066 AD. The literature of this age was mostly oral, and so therefore there are handful of prose and poetry. Most English poetry in the early Anglo-Saxon period is associated with the events of the Germanic tribes arriving in England and the conversion to Christianity. The stories are either brought over by the invading tribes from their continental Germanic homes, or they show a keen interest in Bible stories, in Christianity, and in Christian values. The literature of Anglo-Saxon period was recorded in manuscripts, and our knowledge depends on four groups of manuscripts. These are: number one, manuscript collected by Sir Robert Cotton, which are now in the British Museum, which contains Beowulf, Geodet, and three other prose works. The Junius manuscript in the Bodleian Library at Oxford, the manuscript given by the Dutch scholar Francis Dion or Junius, librarian to the Earl of Arundel. It contains Genesis, Exodus, Daniel, and Christ and Satan. The Exeter book, given to Exeter Cathedral by Bishop Leofric sometime after 1050, which contains Christ, the Wanderer, Juliana, the Seafarer, Whitsit, Deor, and many other short pieces. The last manuscript, the Vercelli book, preserved in Cathedral Library at Vercelli in northern Italy, which contains Andreas, the Faiths of the Apostles, Address of the Soul to the Body, The Dream of the Rood, and Ellen. In Sir Robert Cotton's collection is the manuscript of Beowulf, the most important of poem of the Anglo-Saxon period. Beowulf holds a special position in Anglo-Saxon literature because it is the only complete extant epic of its kind in an ancient Germanic language. Beowulf survived the ravage of time and survives in a single manuscript which was damaged by fire before it was even studied or transcribed. The ultimate origin of the story is folklore, and many historians are of the view that it is completed by a single author writing in the first half of the 8th century. It means that we do not have any idea about the author, and the work is called or considered to be an anonymous one. The epic was called Beowulf by the later historians, as he is the central figure of that heroic epic. The heroic epic contains 3,000 alliterative lines, and as J.R.R. Tolkien, one of the famous 20th century writers, delivered a lecture about Beowulf, in which he talked about Beowulf to be considered more as a poem. If we look at the overall summary of Beowulf, it is divided into two parts. The first part deals with the visit of Beowulf, a Scandinavian warrior and nephew of King Hygelac of Geats, to the court of King Hrodgaar of Denmark. Hrodgaar had long been plagued by a man eating monster, Grendel, who came regularly to the great hall of Heorot to devour warriors. Beowulf had come to slay the monster Grendel, and after Beowulf slayed him, Grendel's mother also attacked and was also defeated. The second part takes place after 50 years later, when Beowulf has long been king of Geats. Beowulf once again battles with a dragon, defeats him, but is mortally wounded in the battle and dies later on. The poem ends with an account of Beowulf's funeral. His body is burned on an elaborate funeral pyre amid the lamentations of his warriors. Just look at the Old English version and the modern English version, which will make you clearly understand the difference between the two versions of English. If we look at the overall Anglo Saxon poetry, the poems are written with a long line, each line having an alliteration, and the poet also uses kennings, that is, a compound expression used in Old English with a metaphorical meaning. Sometimes it is also called as picture names. If you look at the example like body, which is replaced by the words bone, house. The poems of Anglo Saxon poetry had heroic spirit in nature. Just look at the given lines from the poem Malden, which talks about the Battle of Malden. There are many other poems which were also written at that time, such as Deor, Wolf and Edwase, The Wife's Lament, The Husband's Message, The Ruin, The Wanderer, and The Seafarer. The church was using the old pagan poetry in the new fight for Christianity. The Christian missionaries saw that they would not destroy the old stories. The mixture of Christian and pagan can be seen in Andreas. Andreas is a religious poem and yet an adventure story with all the old atmosphere of heroic tale of warriors. As we don't have many literary works from this period and we don't have many names connected with Christian traditions, the two writers or the two poets whose names are known to us are Caedmon and Cynewulf. Their works had biblical and many religious themes. We know little about Caedmon's life but nothing about his work. He was a sensitive cowherd employed by the monastery at Whitby. He became a poet, as Bede says, after a visit by an angel, and is said to have rendered Old and New Testament stories into English verse. Saint Cynewulf was a poet who may have flourished early in the 9th century and who is the first Anglo-Saxon poet to sign his work, which is seen in acrostic form in Christ, Juliana, Eileen, and the Faiths of the Apostles. If you look at the stressed alliterative verse of Anglo-Saxon poetry, it is clearly the product of an oral court minstrelsy. It was intended to be recited by the scop, the itinerant minstrel who frequented the halls of kings and chiefs. One of the earliest surviving Anglo-Saxon poem, Whitsit, is the autobiographical record of such a scop. Another of Anglo-Saxon poetry, The Wanderer, is the lamentation of a solitary man who, after his lord's death, which talks about the earlier time of happiness and friendship. In the same way, The Seafarer is the monologue of an old sailor who talks about the loneliness and hardships of life at sea, but is also aware of his fascination towards sea. Both the wanderer and the seafarer are quite similar in nature, and both are in the form of a religious allegory. If you look at another poem there, it is a poem of 42 lines. The poem is about a complaint of a minstrel who, after service to his lord, has been supplanted by a rival. The poem presents a fascinating glimpse of famous figures in Germanic legends such as Theodoric the Ostrogoth. The poem is a beautiful display of combination of subject matter with a personal elegiac note. The Anglo-Saxon religious poetry moves beyond biblical paraphrase into the didactic, the devotional, and the mystical. These qualities are also exhibited by many of the religious poems which seem to have been written under this influence. The most remarkable of these is the Dream of the Rood. The rood here refers to Christ's cross, and this poem is one of the oldest surviving English poem in the form of a dream or vision. The dreamer tells how he saw a vision of the bright cross, which begins to make a speech. It concludes with the dreamer's account of his own religious hope. Moving forward, Anglo Saxon prose begins with the reign of King Alfred of Wessex. During the Danish invasions, in which one after another the great abbey houses were destroyed, a young man of 22 became king. King Alfred deserves to be remembered as one of the outstanding figures in English history as a soldier, strategist, scholar, educator, and administrator. He played an important role in the history of English education and the history of English literature. He translated many literary works, but many historians are of the view that more than translating, he inspired many translations. It is said that he translated Gregory's Cura Pastoralias, Historiae Adversum Pagnosus by Paulus Orosius, Bede's Historia Ecclesiastica. The most important contribution of Alfred was the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles, which is a continuous record of English history from Julius Caesar's invasion to the middle of the 5th century and continues till 1154 AD. It ends with the death of King Stephen and it was distributed to monasteries across England. We should remember that monasteries played an important role during that time in spread of Christianity and in the field of knowledge or we can say in disseminating knowledge. Out of the notes of events kept by monasteries, King Alfred was able to conceive the idea of a national history and he achieved it through Anglo-Saxon chronicles. If you look at the overall work, it continued after Alfred's death and it was like helping us from transitioning from old English period to modern English period. Another two important writers or prose writers were Elfric and Wollstone. Elfric wrote two series known as the Catholic Homilies and Homiliae Catholicae. Wolfiston delivered the sermon to the English in 1014 in the wake of Dane invasions. If you look at the overall prose work, it is much more English as it take place wholly in England and was not influenced by German origins such as Anglo-Saxon poetry. Moving on, church and religion has been the center of all the discussions throughout Anglo-Saxon history. There was a significant development of ecclesiastical institutions, particularly monasteries, which continues to serve as a center of learning, a center of culture, and one should also remember that churches began to serve as center of performance. The earliest dramas also got enacted in churches. Clerics played an important role in spreading the knowledge, the dissemination of knowledge, and so forth. Literature, as such, even in Latin, did not yet play the central part in embodying and transmitting the cultural tradition that it was to do late, particularly from the time of Renaissance. As David Deitch summarizes, the man of culture belonged first of all to church, and the impressive claims of secular literature had not yet begun to be asserted. So, the period of Anglo Saxon literature does not contain a lot of literary works, but it plays a great role in the creation of English as a language and how it transitioned from that old English to Middle English after Norman conquest. Thank you for listening.